Hello there, everybody. Sabah Night Dragon Gamer, and welcome back to Tokyo Babel. Now then, I cut it short, and obviously I feel kind of bad about that, so unfortunately, well, not really unfortunately, what I'm going to do from now on is say, I guess, fuck sleep. And I'm going to try to give this the same treatment as I've been giving Umineko, even if, you know, work is trying to kick my ass. I can't let it do that. Alright. The world Oshiba Hagane came from had a deep-rooted class system. Those born to politicians lived to become politicians themselves. Those born to soldiers had no choice but to set off to wars. Robbed of their possibilities from birth, the children of that world had their whole futures defined solely by their parents' profession. Which fucking sucks. And in a place where such a system might as well have been a part of the natural world, there were very few children who actually questioned it. One who did was Oshiba Hagane. Unlike the others around him, he was puzzled by the state of his world. The profession he inherited from his father, that of a traditional fencing instructor, played a big part in him developing so, for it was mostly obsolete in the modern world. Oshiba Hagane pondered. Indeed, if you mastered the techniques of the Shintao Hakusan style, you could take on 1,000 opponents all at once. However, that only applied to an age before the invention of firearms. The world was always cruel and unfair, and with the descent of guns that outperformed blades in all combat situations, well, swords grew obsolete. In other words, the various techniques that Oshiba Hagane shed blood, sweat, and tears to acquire were, in the end, completely useless and impractical. Yet his father had his own opinion. To change the future, to have humans choose their own fate. In this world, that meant rebellion against society itself, an absolute taboo exceeding that of the sin of murder. That was not what he meant. It was not. However, he wished to know the meaning of his life. He wished to know the meaning of the techniques he mastered. He craved for a raison d'etre. Was a life of constant questioning and doubts the only path permitted to him? He didn't wish for such a life. He wanted to hold his head high and declare that the techniques of his sword were meaningful to the world. That was all he wanted. Yet the dream that had been denied to him by his own father, who went on to chastise him for his blasphemy with death. For Oshiba Hagane's words denied the norm of society, for they had the power to turn their whole family to blasphemers in the face of the country. Your world is fucked up. Father readied his nodachi. As the last gesture of his love, he thought to end the life of his foolish son in a single painless strike. What love is there in murder? Well, without love it cannot be seen, but with love you see things that might not be there. Taking a deep sigh, Oshiba Hagane faced his decrepit father. I have far surpassed you, father. Call it. That his skills already far surpassed him. That his techniques were already honed to perfection. The arts that took his father's decades to master fell prey to Oshiba Hagane's inherent talent in days. And somehow the father became a pterodactyl. Forgetting his techniques, forgetting it was his son in front of his eyes, forgetting everything, the man let out a beastly howl and swung his blade awkwardly like an untrained child. Oshiba Hagane regarded his father's outburst with ice-cold eyes, and...
神道白山流絶技国切り
Father split in two from head to groin. He sliced both through his brain and heart in the blink of an eye. That must have been an instant death. And even if the death itself hadn't been instant, Father couldn't have had enough time to feel pain. It was Oshiba Hagane's last token of mercy.
さてこれからどうしようか
He was at his wit's end. That would be a bit of an odd expression to describe his state of mind, for he simply couldn't think of a single answer to the question of what he should do next. He only wished to live. He only wished for a satisfying life. The dojo slumbered in darkness. In the middle of it stood the nonchalant Oshiba Hagane, not unnerved in the slightest by the sight of his own father's bisected body. And it was then that this dry aberration of nature caught the eyes of one being.
君の技は見事だ。
Wait, is that Astaroth? Oshiba Hagane's body reacted in a split second.
誰だ
He readied his sword, and it was only then that his thoughts finally caught up as to his actions. There was no one inside the dojo. He could not feel a single soul around. But then, where was that voice coming from?
お前の未来を教える。選べ。怠惰の成果。満ち足りたしか。
Oshiba Hagane couldn't tell who was speaking to him, but his gut told him one thing. It surely was no human. Deep down he knew the words of the apparition were no lie either. And so, he had nothing to hesitate about.
満ち足りた死を僕にください
Such was his decision. A haze veiled everything that followed. Tokyo Babel, crumbling parallel worlds, and Pandora. A meaningful death instead of a meaningless life. As per the orders of the apparition that gave his life meaning, Oshiba Hagane settled to protect the second stratum of Tokyo Babel. Humans that were still unused to their newfound psychic power stood no chance against Oshiba Hagane's techniques in battle, for his sheer strength sometimes surpassed that of angels and demons. Of course, he himself also gained a new arsenal, bestowed upon him by the apparition that saved him. Enough magical energy to match non-humans. He also inherited a witch blade to amplify it further. Shirayama Hime Kabanemaru. I think I was able to say it perfectly last time. Coming from the future as the newest witch blade known to man, it of course had many exceptional powers slumbering within its steel. Still, all of them only supplemented the inherent skill of the wielder. It was the genius with swordplay he'd polished for many years that led Oshiba Hagane to be entrusted with the second stratum, not some newfound magic trick. Watching was all Sorumi could do, but at the same time she was the only one who could see through. And because of that, the girl could positively tell that Oshiba Hagane's madness was indeed beyond help. He was fast. He had far surpassed the limits of humankind. Under normal circumstances, his body, already moving at the speed of sound, would clash against the resistance of the air. But with air magic at his disposal, he could neutralize such physical phenomena. In other words, nothing limited Oshiba Hagane's speed anymore. The air pressure that would crush anyone else attempting his feats had no jurisdiction over him. But the most terrifying thing about it all was that Oshiba Hagane could actually react at such speed. He could plan and launch over 6 swings in the blink of an eye. Setsuna parried 2 of the hits, and evaded the other 2. The last 2, however, buried deep into his flesh. Sorumi could indeed spot 6 strikes come at her comrade pretty much at the same time. Negating 4 of them was already a commendable feat. However, it didn't change the fact that Setsuna was at a terrible disadvantage. All he could do was defend himself. He didn't even have time to summon the beasts. Yet nonetheless. There was a hint of change in Oshiba Hagane's countenance, something he himself had yet to realize. He was growing more and more impatient. Locking his gaze on the young man before him, he threw multiple feints and then went to indefinitely cleave his neck off. And he had him. Or so he thought. The very next moment he was forced to freeze in astonishment at his failed attack. He wouldn't show it on his face, of course. He could come to terms with the reality of his ineffective strikes, but he couldn't dispel the doubts cropping up in his heart. His blade came at the young man in volleys, like a barrage from a machine gun, yet the young man still seemed to observe them with his eyes, judge them with his ears, and sort them with his mind with mind-boggling precision. And then he would go on and parry each and every one of them with a single sword. His style was far from that of a swordsman. If anything, he lumbered around the field like an amateur. He seemed to know the basics of fencing, but that was about it. Oshiba Hagane threw everything he had at the young man, yet Tendao Setsuna, nonetheless, would still somehow barely escape from the caress of his steel. He'd evade any attack by the skin of his teeth. Still, Oshiba Hagane knew full well that such luck could not possibly go on forever. He'd have to make at least one mistake eventually, and lose his neck in the process. And yet... Ooh. A feeble blow that would unlikely cause much damage, even if it did hit his target. Yet it was still a blow that somehow found its way through Oshiba Hagane's never-ending assault. He refused to believe it. Such a thing should have been impossible. He spent years polishing his craft. He spent years weaving his techniques. Through rigorous training, he was able to surpass every single person in this world. So there was no way he could succumb to an amateur of all things. Howling like a beast, Oshiba Hagane added more ferocity to his barrage. However, Setsuna, as if not knowing this concept of fatigue, only grew faster himself. The history and descent of Tendao Setsuna were slightly different from those of a normal man. One could call his heritage peculiar, or even abnormal. To tell the truth, I had nothing to call experience. All the knowledge I had was information imprinted into my mind at birth. For example, I was no better than an amateur at fencing, but I knew everything there was to know about my opponent's weapon. I knew the whole history of fencing, how it split into countless schools, and what techniques it gave birth to. Even though there was no data on Oshiba Hagane's peculiar style, I could still find information on one extremely similar to his. A school that had branched off from Shingen Ryu by adopting Nodachi. The style had likely been adjusted to one against many battles, to the field of war and armies. To add to this, Oshiba Hagane was a genius with a blade, not to mention he had a witchblade that could as well predict the future. Shirayamihime Kabanemaru. God, that first one always screws me over. Challenging such an opponent with no plan in mind, or relying on my own puny skills with the sword that would mean almost certain death. That was why I came up with an alternate approach. Predicting the future amounted to analyzing the information you had at hand at human speed to make swift and precise assumptions of the things to come. If you had enough information on how one moved, the thought, and what he had to do to survive, you could predict his behavior in real time. Therefore, my first objective was to jumble that information. One of the powers I had been endowed with from birth was the extraordinary strong blast of electricity that could propel from my hands by restructuring my cells to resemble those of an electrical eel. Takemikazuchi. Normally, I'd utilize it to stun my opponents from a distance. Now, however, I was using it to control the electrical currents within my body. The orders that the human brain relayed to its body were conveyed primarily through neurotransmitters and calcium ions that triggered muscles to contract. And when they did, the voltage of their cells would change slightly. Now, however, I wasn't relaying orders to my body from my brain. My arms and legs act before I consciously thought of the feet. They would lash out without restraint, for I made sure the electrical impulses whirling inside me were completely random. In this state, I myself couldn't grasp some of my movements. And, of course, it was a very risky approach. Sorry about that. I could very well crash into Oshiba Hagane's blade without realizing what I was truly doing, which would mean certain death. Knowing that full well, I nonetheless continued with this approach, putting my brain, muscles, bones, and even my own will into overdrive. I kept clashing against Oshiba Hagane, bouncing off the walls of the buildings of Roppongi Hills, ignoring the laws of gravity. Letting out a wild cry, I dodged the attack by the skin of my teeth. Oshiba Hagene's swing sliced through the building behind me like it were a sponge cake. God damn it. Was this all I could do at my full strength? Was this the extent of what one could cheat through with inborn powers alone? Was it so that imitation and knowledge, however precise, could never parallel experience and years of polish? My body reacted to Soromi's cry with a sudden flinch. I didn't let Oshiba Hagane out of my eyes, but a part of my mind wandered off towards her. My feeling of inadequacy vanished as soon as I realized the meaning of her words. She trusted me. There was not a shred of doubt in her eyes. Her look infused me with more power than any petty trick or home technique ever could. With power by the name of Valor. Oshiba Hagane winced in pain. His brain had to recalculate countless conflicting parameters to predict my future, and was in the midst of overheating. Yet still, he refused to let himself take a moment of rest. Not letting the opportunity slip, I lunged towards him at my fastest speed and swung. He too dodged my strike by the skin of his teeth, but I still seemed to graze the surface of his sternum. Blood seeping through his chest, he leapt away from me, his face contorted in anxiety. He glared at me in bewilderment. The inconsistency of my physical prowess must have completely jumbled his mind. Who could blame him? You could search the entirety of parallel worlds and you still wouldn't find someone as endowed with genes as me. I was made to be invincible. I was made to be unstoppable. I was made to be supreme, to guide them. This is what they wished on me. I always thought it a curse, yet now I found it a blessing. For my inborn physical aptitude seemed to actually be enough to keep up with the honed skills of a genius swordsman. Oshiba Hagane took a deep breath, and the anxiety vanished from his features. I thought of pursuing him while he was still overtaken by surprise, but my body couldn't keep up. Oshiba Hagane gave me a wry smile. I couldn't mask the tinge of anger mixed into my voice. We clashed again. Unlike the start of battle, Oshiba Hagane no longer lingered at my sword's reach. He'd strike me once and promptly take his distance. 2 strikes fell on me like that already. Now was the 3rd. If he was planning something special, now was the time. Launching another strike, Oshiba Hagane once again leapt backwards, but this time he kept the blade at shoulder height. Then he suddenly proceeded to launch a swing from a distance that even a Nodachi couldn't possibly cover. His blade suddenly lengthened? No, that wasn't it. He cut through the air and launched a vacuum blast straight at me. Oshiba Hagane suddenly stopped in place, and with a bitter smile on his lips, urged me to answer his question. Yeah, guns are... yeah. Oshiba Hagane let out a dry laugh.
かつて父にそう言ってやったよ。だが魔力を得てカバネ丸を得た今そう捨てた技で
Ushibahagane readied his blade again. This time, however, I spotted a peculiar glow around the edges of the weapon.
白柳カバネ丸アプリケーション起動
The next moment, I saw myself die in my mind's eye. The sensation defied the scope of language. All I can say is that I knew I would vanish from this world if I stayed in this place. Not considering the contrary, I proceeded to flee the vicinity with all my might. Then I suddenly realized there was one matter holding me back, one thing I could not ignore no matter the circumstances. At a distance of about 50 meters from me, there she stood. If I ran, Sormi would die. As I realized that, the notion of me running away vanished without trace. In that case, I had no choice but to try to stop this with one of my 7 beasts. But which one could truly prove effective in this situation? Think. Probably the Beast of Lust? Or the Mirror Knight?
この世界からこの未来から消え失せろご来天狗
Oh my god, seizure warning! Another name of for the Buddhist god in charge of divine punishment. He rained terror on sinners with all 5 molds of lightning at his disposal. Divine, earthly, water, air, and ephemeral. However, the thing that bolted out of Ushibahagane's blade was far removed from anything akin to natural phenomena like lightning. It was a wave of condensed, all-destroying ablation energy. It was something that would turn anything, regardless of their sturdiness, regardless if they were animate or inanimate, to mincemeat. Imbuing his inherent magical abilities with the Witch Blade and adding his own techniques to the mix, Ushibahagane created something that would instill terror into the hearts of angels and demons alike, rendering them as helpless as mere mortals in its path. That was all I, Tendao Setsuna, had time to comprehend. I had less than a second to think, and I had but one choice left. A single means of attack. Summoning one of the beasts of the 7 deadly sins. I sacrificed what could have been the last second of my life to analyze my options. Which of the beasts could possibly withstand this attack? The Beast of Gluttony? The Molten Gold of Sloth? The Azure Flame of Wrath? The Rotten Chains of Envy? The Silver Lion of Pride? The Mirror Knight of Lust? No, neither fit. Neither could do a thing in this situation. But I felt I was close. The answer was lying there somewhere. In their abilities, in their respective roles. 6 deadly sins, 6 deadly beasts. What was the 7th? Chimera, the incarnate of greed. Being 7th, it was the strongest and deadliest of the beasts. Its power, as per words of Lilith,
強欲の罪すべては我がものすべては我が領域相当を用いて大罪すらも己がものにせよ
Chimera, a hybrid beast. It had no powers of its own, but it could give birth to new ones by combining others. The ingredients they required were the other 6 deadly sins. By combining 2 of any of those, Chimera would display its true potential. For example, if you combine pride and lust, almost as if laughing at his fruitless attempt to struggle, the tremendous blast of pure energy obliterated Tendao Setsuna with an all-decimating whoosh. Ushibahagane let out a long, exhausted breath. He used too much energy, more than he should have, really. He put all his magical energy, every last iota, in this attack. Even Kabanemaru couldn't do anything with his master at 0 mana in reserves. Ushibahagane couldn't stand him. He couldn't stand the gifted fool who dared oppose his honed skills with talent alone. It felt as though the young man somehow insulted all the hard work Ushibahagane put into acquiring his techniques, insulted the concept of swordsmanship itself. Oshiba's lips curled into a self-deprecating smile. Wasn't he the one who loathed the Shintao Hakusan style more than anyone? Wasn't he the one who kept insulting its techniques? Didn't he throw his past away long ago already? The existence of that young man itself was so abnormal it irritated him beyond all reason. He couldn't help relying on his wretched techniques, and even cheating with magic tricks to completely obliterate the fool. He would have loved to take his head as a souvenir, but it was too late. There was nothing else for him to do here. The girl over there was no combatant. If she tried attacking him, he could slay her in a split second. Not an opponent to be concerned with. Nonetheless, Oshiba Hagane was oddly satisfied with today's work. Tendao Setsuna. It wasn't like Oshiba Hagane never harbored scorn towards a fellow human being. He certainly did not think too highly of his father, but this was the first time he felt this much malice towards anyone. And when Oshiba Hagane was about to take his last relaxing sigh, commemorating the achievement of this day, the voice coming from behind his back turned his blood to ice. He turned back, blade at the ready, but it was already too late, for the sword of his opponent had already finished its thrust. Instead of pain, it was extreme chill that he felt first, as if his body started turning to ice from inside. Trouble breathing was what assaulted him next. Tendao Setsuna's Pekati sword was sticking out of his chest, its blade thrusting through into his heart. He had unrivaled powers. He could slaughter angels and demons alike, but it's not like they had made him immortal. He suddenly spotted a peculiar shadow on Tendao Setsuna's face. It was born of neither malice or anger. It seemed more akin to sadness. No, perhaps turmoil. So that was how it was. The young man had probably met the old copy of himself in the halls of Pandora. For that face was indeed a mask of mixed guilt, the mask you wear when you slay someone you used to know. What a fool. He realized the hilt of the blade had already slipped from his fingers, and so he guided his hand towards the cheek of his slayer, Tendao Setsuna instead. Considering the feelings of the person who has killed him, he couldn't help but smile at the irony of the situation. Oshiba Hagane's death was surprisingly sudden and anticlimactic. I couldn't deny it was a fool's wager. I ended up relying on the combined powers of the Silver Lion of Pride and the Mirror Knight of Lust. The Silver Lion would emit a damage-neutralizing wave once hit. You could compare him to reactive armor in some ways. The Mirror Knight, on the other hand, had the power to summon multiple illusions. It could display a whole fake scenery with an object, myself in this case being shredded within it. You could call it a physics agent's engine of impeccable holograms. However, since that was all they were, illusions, they couldn't possibly emulate the sense of touch. And when destroyed, they'd obviously disappear, just like Oshiba Hagane has sent them to the Nether now. Oshiba Hagane would have undoubtedly seen through the illusion under normal circumstances. However, with the Silver Lion's reactive wave, he also ended up feeling a concrete physical feedback from his attack. He might have felt only a tiny bit of resistance before the whole thing turned to dust and vanished, but it was enough to fool him. That was why he let his guard down. Despite his training, a part of him did evaluate the battle to be over. And with all his attention directed to the illusion, he didn't have an inkling the real me had actually been circling behind his back. Oshiba Hagane shall die with a sword thrust through his heart. He finally reached the future he was wishing for. In light of that fact, the expression on his face betrayed satisfaction. He could even muster the strength to raise his hand up to my cheek and murmur forgiveness. He asked me not to mind killing him. Those were his last words. But the request was impossible. I met him in school. I knew him. Yet I killed him. Stuck a sword in his chest with my own two hands. The guilt overtook my body, a shudder running along my skin. The cry tugged me back to reality. I wondered if I should stop Sormi from coming here, as she proceeded to dash towards me in frenzied steps.
いいえ、ちゃんと見せなきゃダメよ。
And as if on cue, an angel and a demoness appeared next to me from the
し
shadows.
かし
これから先、残酷な光景はいくつも見なくてはならないでしょうに。それに、さっき彼女は切断された生首を見ているわ。なら、こんな綺麗な死体なら問題ないでしょ。
That wasn't the issue. She was acquainted with Oshiba Hagane. That association could prove to be a bit of a problem.
怪我とかしてないよね。ごめんね。結局役立たずでした。
空見のおかげで助かったよ。本当にありがとう。
いやいや、私何もしてないし。
I could protect her, and there was nothing more jubilant in this world than that.
おしばくん、死んでるよね。死にかけよ。 心臓が少し動いているだけ。
Sormi, all emotion washing off her face, gripped Oshibahagane's hand.
大柴君。
Lilith and Raziel observed the display, not a hint of emotion in their eyes. I could guess they've already lived through countless scenes like this. And as I was deep in thought, Oshibahagane's eyes suddenly fluttered open.
伝言が一つあった。
大柴君。
僕は条件を満たした。死ぬことには変わりない。今ここにいるのはただの名残でしかない。
大柴君、死ぬの？
僕はようやくこの未来に到達した。満足だ。心から満足したとも。たとえ結末が死であろうとも問題ない。遅いか早いかの違い程度だからね。
でも怖くない？私だったら怖い。とても怖いよ。死んだら消えてなくなるんでしょ。
Anxiety on her face, Sormi asked Oshiba the cruel question. This boy, however, regarded her with a nonchalant expression.
怖いかもしれない。でもその一方で僕はほっとしている。やっとあるべき場所に帰ることができた。
As the correct existence living at the correct time in the correct world.
こうして剣を心臓に突き立てられることがあるべき場所だっていうのか。
その通り、ようやくこの未来にたどり着いた正しい存在だ。
違うよ、大柴君。こんな場所で理不尽に死ぬことが正しいはずは。
いや、正しいんだ。あの方にそう定められた。あやふやだった僕の存在を確定してくれた。
And let me guess. Either you're going to die before you can reveal what his name is, or we're gonna have another repeat of the last time, where Adam and Eve basically destroy a really meant to be heartwarming moment.
あの方？あの方って誰よ？
さあ、それは教えてやらない。僕にも抱えるべき秘密の一つくらいはあるから。
Oh, god damn it, Oshiba. Oshiba Hagana gave us an impish laugh. Not finding the words to retort, Lilith returned to silence.
私にはやっぱりわからない。わからないよ。
Judging by the voice I heard, I bet you it was Astaroth.
くぐつ空見。君は自分がこれまで生きてきたという証を立てることができるかい？
私には記憶がないから。
だったら証を立てるんだ。そうすればきっと僕の言っていることもわかるようになる。
証？
どうか君がいつか君のレゾンデートルを見つけられますように。
With nothing else to say, Sormi took a step away from Oshiba Hagane. Taking her place, I kneeled down on one knee and considered him.
痛みはあるか？
少し。だがこの痛みはいい。一つ聞いていいか？最後のあれは。
幻影だ。少しばかり改良したけど。
Chagrin passed through Oshiba Hagane's lips.
ちぇ、聞いてみればなんだ。つまらない。もう一度やれば絶対に負けないのに。
嫌だ。次に戦えば8割以上の確率で 僕が敗北する。あの戦術がまともに機能するのは一度きりだ。
そうだね。次は負けないのにな。ああ、なんてこった。未練だ。未練が残ってしまった。
It didn't seem he was especially serious about it, as a faint smile still lingering on his face sweetened his words. Contrary to what he had said, he might have been on his way to the nether with no real regrets in his heart after all.
死ぬ時は何だって未練が残るものさ。
そうかな。
Before I knew it, the dawn on the horizon signaled the end of our long night. A veil of faint blue started its ascent upon the sky. It would soon color the heavens in their old self of vivid azure.
来たのか。初めて見た。
Oshibahagane blinked a few times, and as he finally grasped the sight stretching before him, angst twisted his features.
本当だ。参ったな。未練だ。未練が残った。美しい。こんな美しい光景は見たことがない。なんだ。
There was no longer a hint of color left in his face. He grinded his teeth as if having realized he had something to regret.
気づかなかった。こんな美しい場所を僕は血で汚していたのか。ああ、もっと見たかった。もっと見たかったな。畜生ね。ああ、それだけじゃない。もっと戦いたかった。もっと君と殺し合いたかった。生死の境界線をずっとずっと往復していたかった。
だけどそれはわがままだろ。君は他の人間の未練を切り続けてきたのだから。
Just as I had to atone for the 10 billion I buried, so he too had to receive just punishment for his deeds. Such was the nature of regret.
そうだろうな。切ってきたものな。
仕方ないさ。安心しろ。僕もそういう風に死んでいくはずだから。
君も未練が。
わからないが、多分そうなるという予感がある。
Filled with regrets, pleading for more time, I shall die in the midst of despair. I could see such an end for myself vividly in my mind's eye.
最後に僕から一つだけ頼みがあるんだが。
何？
君は未練を残さず死ね。全くグーの音も出ないくらいに希望にあふれる死を迎えろ。絶望などせず満足いく死を。
どうして？
僕はこの世界において悪役だった。だから最後までそうありたい。僕を倒した君が正義の味方以外になることは許さない。
Oshibahagane let out a short chuckle.
僕の呪いは君の中で生き続ける。そう考えただけで少し救われる気がする。約束してくれ。
I had no choice but to bear his curse, in exchange for the responsibility of having killed him.
わかった。君の呪いを受け入れる。
ありがとう。本当にありがとう。
I gripped his shaking hand. We did not hold anything back when we were fighting to the death, yet now I felt as if there had, indeed, sprouted a peculiar kind of bond between us.
まあいいか。
I did not know what enough of did he have, but as if truly coming to terms with his regrets, he closed his eyes. His chest that had been lightly moving up and down till now fell silent. The beat of his heart, his pulse, vanishing to the nether. Well, shit, that was sad! Oshiba Hagane was now indeed dead. Sormi and I mourned his passing, while Lilith and Raziel stared at his dead body as if it had been the most puzzling thing in the world. The cause of his death was clear as day, but whatever has guided him to this position had been left shrouded in mystery. We didn't know. We hadn't an inkling of what master he served. I do. Or maybe I don't. We buried Oshiba Hagane under a tree, embedding his blade into the soil to continue serving him after death as a headstone. And so with its master toppled, Roppongi had finally regained peace. There was but one thing left for us to do here.
さて、仕事はあと一つ。第三階層へとつながる扉を探して。それをラジエルに伝えれば、ラジエルが扉のデータを取得して、パンドラから直通で行けるようになるから。
So they called it pilgrimage, but apparently we didn't have to complete our whole journey in one go. I noted a decrease in my eye performance. No, that wasn't it. My whole mind seemed to display performance issues. I felt lightheaded. But it wasn't bad enough to interfere with the current mission. I should brace myself and... Raziel and Sormi each gave me a worried glance.
顔色悪いよ。
気のせいだろ。
I ordered nanomachines to fix the color of my face.
いやいや、突然顔色が元に戻っても気分が悪そうなのは変わりないからね。あら、参ったわね。まあでも第三階層への扉を探すくらいだから、特に刹那が動く必要はないわ。休んでなさい。
いや、作戦続行に問題はな。
いいから休む。
Okay. As Sormi thrust her finger in my face, I was suddenly overcome by an instinct to obey.
分かった。おとなしく休むことにする。
うん。じゃあ、ラジエルとサラミは第三階層への扉を探して。刹那は私が見ておくから。え？
I don't trust being left with you. Sormi seemed completely lost. She vacantly stared at me and Lilith.
いや、一人くらいはついてあげないとダメでしょ。サラミは目があるし、ラジエルは扉のデータを獲得しないといけないし。リリス、それはちょっと虫が良すぎる。
Yeah. Raziel's icy gaze pierced Lilith. Lilith's idea didn't seem to sit well with her.
おう。いやでもしかし、実は私、創作とか面倒だし苦手。
Stop being lazy.
いいから来い。
Raza took a firm hold of Lilith's shoulders and pulled the demoness to her side.
おお、リリスさんがある晴れた昼下がりに市場へ売られていくかわいそうな子牛の目をしている。もう。
Okay, you didn't have to play the part, but okay.
乗らなくていいから。
And so she was off, pulling Lilith after herself. Either way, I got permission to rest, so I figured I should do that. I had to stretch everything, my physical strength, magical abilities, willpower, and whatever other energies there are, to the limit for this victory. Slumping down on a nearby bench, I directed my gaze towards the ever-stretching nothingness of the sky. Sormi took a seat right next to me.
刹那さん？
うん。何？
ひょっとして眠かったりする？
With fog still veiling my thoughts, I gave her a nod. Rather than feeling sleepy, I had trouble holding my consciousness together. Not that the two concepts differed much from her perspective.
ほら、いいよ。
She tapped her thighs a couple of times. What on earth was she doing? How is my sleepiness supposed to be related to her body parts?
じゃあ、実力行使するから。
Want me to sleep in your lap?
いや、君と僕では身体能力があまりに違いすぎるから。
問答無用。
Yeesh! Sormi gripped my head in her arms and brought it down to her knees. Pressing my head against her thighs so I couldn't get up, she whispered in my ear.
このままじっとしてなさい。
Okay then.
問答無用で。
そう、問答無用ね。
Okay then. The sky of Roppongi had turned to bright morning by now. A refreshing breeze shifted the big white clouds across the deeply azure canopy. There was hardly anything left telling of the battle that had transpired here moments ago. Even the impaled heads vanished without a trace with Oshibahagene's last breath. With the calming touch of peace back in this town, it felt like the incarnation of serenity itself.
終わったね。
Looks
正
like
確
it.
に言うと、第2階層を突破しただけだ。第3から第7まで、関門は残り5つということになる。
うわ、そう考えるとちょっとばかり気が遠くなりますな。
だが、一歩は踏み出せた。
そうだね。せつな、お疲れ様。
確かに疲れてはいるが、こうして寝転がるほど消耗してないと思う。
自信なさげに言われてもな。休んで、せつな。リリスもラジエルもサボってたんだから。
Well, you're not wrong. Well, I couldn't argue with that.
何が？
そのもも肉が。
Awkward question.
鶏肉みたいな言い方だ。君の太ももは柔らかすぎて大腿骨がわかるくらいだ。
That's creepy.
100% 脂肪？
いや、そこまでひどくないから。
不満はないよね。
ない。誰かの膝にこうして頭を預ける行為は未体験だから比較しようもない。君は？
Oh, my lord, Setsuna.
記憶喪失の私に何を問うておるのですか。
そういえばそうか。
まあでも多分こういうことはしたことないんじゃないかなって思う。だってドキドキしてるし。
Giving a small smile, Sormi proceeded to trail her fingers across my hair.
だからまあお互い初めて同士ってことでいいじゃありませんか、旦那様。
Why the hell did you call me hubby? My thought process froze as the last word reached my ears.
どちらの意味？
I shouted a question, my thoughts still frozen in ice.
どちらって。
主従の旦那様か夫婦の旦那様か、言葉の意味がよくわからなかったから。
やだな、そんなの決まってるでしょ。こんなの夫婦に決まって。
And so she fell silent. I tried stealing a glance at her and found that she had turned bright red from her neck all the way to her ears. Really, she looks pale to me. Her thought process seemed to have frozen over as well. There's probably no use trying to prod her now. And if I left her alone, I would be able to enjoy this prone position for a while longer. Which wasn't such a bad deal. I totally messed up. But really, I didn't expect myself to be this much of an innocent damsel type. Just as the word husband left my lips, every part of my body went off the rails. My face and neck flushed red as if suddenly having caught fire, and it felt like even my internal organs started melting down. You should probably go to a doctor about that. This oaf, on the other hand...
寝てやがる。
Tenda Setsuna snoozed like a baby on my knees. I felt as if I'd die from embarrassment when I let that husband thing slip, but this guy didn't seem like he minded, or noticed at all. Wait, does this mean I was getting riled up for nothing? Why should I feel embarrassed about something he didn't even seem to care about? But that by itself was kind of... He kind of is. I tried poking his cheek with my finger in revenge. It would have been creepy if his skin had turned out to be soft, but it didn't. His skin felt smooth and springy, like elastic. It was very white, especially at his neck region. Thinking about these kind of things made me feel hot for some reason. I am Machine God. He displayed the strength of a beast when I first met him. He'd yet to let me down on that front, that's for sure. This world was full of psychics and supermen and swordsmen who spent their whole lives learning martial arts. It felt as almost if there were a gathering place of heroes from comic books. And Setsuna was one of them. After all, when I asked Lilith about him, she returned my gaze with a terrible, troubled look in her eyes.
せつな。せつなはそういうんじゃないのよ。 どちらかというと彼は主人公に立ちはだかる壁じゃないかしら。どういうこと？私だってフィクションの世界はそこそこ詳しいもの。刹那はだからあれよ、 99% 僕の勝利だとか主人公に言っちゃう側。
完全に敗北するタイプじゃないですかそれ。
まあつまりそういうことなのよ。
Lilith then went on to cackle for a while. In other words, she beat around the bush and left me none the wiser. Lilith has a habit of doing that. Or at least I thought that back then. Now I thought her words had a ring of truth to them. He bested the polished techniques, the sweat, blood, and tears of his opponent with his innate talent alone. That totally sounded like a villain's role to me. Not to mention that he never hinted that he himself or his actions just. That he thought himself, sorry. People who throw justice left and right were certainly fishy, but at least they were thinking themselves to be in the right in their hearts. Setsuna was nothing like that. He seemed more like he thought himself a penitent sinner. At least that was the feeling I got. So in other words, he probably... Whatever. Didn't matter what Setsuna thought of himself. To me, he was a defender of justice, a hero who always saved me from a tight spot. Are you just poking him? And so poking his cheek like this was how I expressed my maidenly affection. Affection? Huh. I felt like my face caught fire again. Hello, Samael! Samael came to her with panic on her lips.
一体大柴鋼とは何だったんだい？この東京バベルで私の知らないことがあっていいはずないだろう。
とは言われても私にも分かりかねます。
Eve shook her head with a troubled expression. Samael, meanwhile, alternated between pacing around and clutching her head with such force that strands of hair would tear and fly into the air. Quite a rhyme. Eve, on the other hand, was more interested in Kugutsu Sorumi, a perfectly normal girl from a perfectly normal world that Tendao Setsuna saved. However, there was something about her that made Eve very hesitant to accept that normality of hers. Didn't the fact that she adapted to this deranged environment so easily and inherited Gethel's eyes indicate that there was something abnormal about her? Surely amnesia wasn't the explanation. Someone without memory should have found it even harder to not feel out of place. She'd expect such a person to become intensely high-strung under these circumstances. She'd expect them to wallow in homesickness, or rather world sickness, instead. The siren's song of one's old homeland was that strong. For that reason, the girl puzzled her. She couldn't comprehend her behavior whatsoever. Even Eve, who wandered the earth of her world in Ad Nassim, I don't know how to pronounce that, would still sometimes be assaulted by wistfulness when considering her lost homeland. How? How can she live here and not mind her past one bit? As far as the angels and demons were concerned, Kugutsu Sorumi was a random victim that accidentally got entangled in their affairs, and no one even ever bothered to pay her any special attention. But was she as harmless as everyone thought?
どうしたの、イブ？
いえ、所用ができました。私はこれで。
襲わないの？
Samael pointed at Lilith, who had been looking over the rubble down below, and pursed her lips.
私はもとより戦闘には適しておりませんので、襲いたければご自由にどうぞ。
リリスって強い？
Eve answered Samael with a sigh.
我が姉は強い弱いの次元とはかけ離れた場所に存在しますので。
The powers of Lilith, unlike those of Astaroth and Belial, or Camille and Raziel, could not be defined that easily. In that sense, she was the most exceptional among everyone in this place.
そっか。じゃあやめとく。死にたくないし。
Well, he died like 3 times, or in the previous route. Without another word, Eve left the second stratum behind. Samael continued observing Lilith with a glint of jealousness in her eyes.
はあ。私も友達欲しいな。
Don't you have your basilisk you can play with? She uttered to herself in a lonely voice. And now we're back here. Stormy's face was flushed bright red. The first thing that came to my mind was flu, but she didn't look that bad on a second glance.
なんでもない。
迷惑か？
I tried standing up, but she hurriedly lurched forward and held me down.
いや、全然迷惑じゃないから、じっとしてて。いいから、じっとしてて。
After that litany, I had no choice but to cease struggling. However, having come to the conclusion that I was fully rested, my body refused to relax, especially given the embarrassing nature of my
そ
posture.
ろそろ起きてもいいかと思うんだが。
わかったよ。
And so I was finally released from her clutches.
ねえねえ、せつな。
ああ、
彼女とかいた？
It took my brain about 1 minute to process the information contained in that sentence.
彼女とは恋人を意味する彼女という認識でいいのだろうか？
そうそう。元いた世界で、彼女の一人か二人くらいいたのかなって。
The premise of the question itself was completely off. I was never designed to have girlfriends or lovers. But how could I possibly explain that to her?
空見。
I thought long and hard and came up with one perfect answer to solve the situation.
僕は
お待たせ。やっと見つけて。第三階層のデータも取得した。休ませれ。
And of course we get interrupted.
まさか、ホストクラブのトイレにあるとは。
Did it have the title Oron?
女性に興味がない。
Oh! Oh, god damn it, Setsuna, you fucking idiot. The local temperature seemed to drop down to about absolute zero, and I could swear I heard the world creak before it completely froze up in eternal winter.
というわけで、いたはずがない。
Stormy.exe has ceased functioning. Oh, I didn't know Sloth and Raziel were back. The two for some reason stared at me with expressions that I imagine girls wear when face to face with a dead
お
cockroach.
かえり。
Though I suddenly gasped and I could swear I saw a light bulb appear above her head, the physical laws of this universe were still a bit of a mystery to me.
なるほど、わかった。オッケー。私は大丈夫。私は納得。でも、ラジエルとサラミは勘違いしてるから。
Hmm? Lilith's acting strange again.
ところでセスナ、彼氏はいなかったわよね。
だから、そもそもそういう意味合いでの人間関係に興味を持つように設計されていなかったのだが。
まあ、そういうことよ。というわけで、安心しなさい、サラミ。がっかりしなさい、ラジエル。
はあ、がっかり。いや、待って。なんでがっかりなの？なんで？
And this was how we conquered the second stratum and set our sights on a third.
見てまいりました。
ああ。彼らは敗北したか？
いえ、勝利しました。
うん、そうか。正直に言って予想外だ。
そうでしたか。
天道刹那という男には薄い魔力しか宿っていない。そして何よりレゾンデートルを掴んでいない。
その通りですわね。
だから第二階層で苦もなく殺されると踏んでいたが。
Indeed, you most certainly were. Adam shrugged.
悔しいですか？
悔しい？意味がわからないぞ。なぜ？
Eve, not bothering to answer, regarded Adam with her dull eyes. Letting out a perplexed mutter, Adam cocked his head to the side.
俺が生きたかったと願うのは悔しさからだろうか。俺の方がもっとうまく戦えただろうと思うことも。
もちろんですわ。
うん。だとしたら俺は悔しいのかもしれない。心の奥で溶岩のような何かがドロドロと渦巻いているような感覚がある。
醜いと思い、
醜い。なぜ？
その感情は嫉妬ですから。
Observing a bitter smile run through Eve's lips, Adam nodded to himself as if struck by revelation.
ほう、これが嫉妬というやつか。なるほど。なんとも言えず。
Eve gave Adam an astonished look.
心地よいですか？
嫉妬は向上心に通じるらしい。より良い自分になろうという考えならば問題あるまい。相手の足を引っ張ろうとするのは論外だがな。
Huh.
でも7つの大罪ですよ。
True, but you do realize you could use any of the sins to actually better yourself, you know.
罪。確かに言葉ではそうかもしれん。だがその感情が悪かどうかは己が決めるべきものだ。俺はこの感情を認めよう。
Eve tried to fake bemusement, but glee tickled her chest from within with too much fervor. She could not help letting out a chuckle.
どうした？
いいえ、何でもありませんわ。
なんだ？
Eve glanced around the room. Now sure that there was no one watching them, she proceeded to sit on the bed and pointed at her lap.
ここに頭を乗せていただけないでしょうか。
Envious?
なぜ？
いいえ、なんとなくですが、久月空美が天道刹那にやっていたので、私もやってみようかと。
そういうことなら了解した。
Adam, after a moment of hesitation, placed his head on Eve's knees. Silence fell upon
やり
them.
たかったのか？
いえ、ただ興味があった程度で。ご迷惑ですか？
いや、別に。お前の方こそ重たくはないのか？
いえ、頭部だけですから軽いくらいです。
そうか。
何かご不満でもありますか？
いや、別に。強いて言うのであれば、
何か。
眠い。
では、どうぞお眠りになってくださいな。
Aww.
いいのか？この体勢を維持し続けるのは辛いだろ
大したことではありません。久月空美もやってましたし、大丈夫です。
う。なら、遠慮なく。
はい。
Before long, Adam's voice was replaced with the calm, rhythmic breaths of sleep. Eve, narrowing her eyes in contentment, reached out to caress Adam's spiky hair. She didn't know what came over her to attempt this, but as she was playing with Adam's hair, she'd realized that a peculiar feeling of inadequacy she felt towards Kugutsusarmi since seeing her in the park had waned. The sight of Tendao Setsuna sleeping peacefully in the girl's lap infused Eve with a peculiar sense of rivalry. But why? Eve couldn't understand. She wasn't in love with Tendao Setsuna, so the emotion couldn't have been envy. Still, she felt something very similar to it had sprouted in her heart. But idle thinking was of no use. If she couldn't understand it, then so be it.
仕方ありませんか。私は人間としてはあまり出来が良い方ではないですし。
She shelved all of these thoughts with a smile, failing to realize the true nature of her own feelings that seeped through the lines she had uttered. Okay. This seems like a pretty darn good place for me to stop right now, I think. Who am I? Yeah, that seems like a pretty good place to stop. Seems like it's a new segment, so... Well, it certainly went better than what happened with Kuro Miyako, so I'm kind of glad about that. Plus, we also got to see some interesting interaction between Adam and Eve. Guess it goes to show just what little difference it makes when you make a different decision and all that. So I'm partially starting to think... I think that Astaroth was the one that recruited Oshiba, judging simply by the recognizing his voice. I did like that little interesting moment with Adam and Eve. So I'm kind of glad I got to see a little bit of that, because I didn't really get to learn all that much about them in the previous route. So I'm glad that's there. Well, shit. Not entirely sure what else to say here, other than me just being silent, which is not a good thing, so I'm not going to leave you guys to that. So if you guys like this, be sure to let me know. Hopefully, I'll be able to... I won't cut. I refuse to cut the next video short. I refuse it. Even if it costs me an hour or so of sleep, I refuse to cut it short. So, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.